Someone woke up this morning with the sole purpose of getting under your skin. They don't know your name, they don't know your story, they don't know what you've been carrying, but they showed up in your inbox, in your office, in your family dinner, and they made it their mission to pull you down to their level. And here's what's terrifying. It almost worked. You almost let it. You almost handed your entire day, your energy, your focus, your peace to someone who doesn't deserve 5 seconds of your mental real estate. That ends right now. Let's get honest about what actually happens when someone gets to you. It's not their words. It's not even their actions. What gets to you is the gap between who you know you are and who their behavior is forcing you to become in that moment. That's the wound. That's the thing that burns. When someone disrespects you in a meeting and you spend the next 4 hours replaying the conversation in your head, you didn't lose to them. You lost to yourself. You gave your own mind over to a person who wasn't even in the room anymore. You became their prisoner without them lifting a finger after the initial offense. There's a man, Thomas Shelby, a fictional character, yes, but built from a kind of psychological architecture that is worth studying like a textbook. You watch him walk into rooms where every person wants something from him, where half the room is plotting against him, where the noise is deafening, and he moves through it like a cold knife through warm air. Not because he doesn't feel it. He feels everything, but he has made a decision, a deep, foundational, almost biological decision, that no outside force gets to determine his internal state. No one gets that power. Not the enemy, not the ally, not the person he loves. No one. That is not fiction. That is a philosophy you can pick up and apply to your Tuesday morning. Here's what being rattled actually costs you. It costs you your processing power. Your brain has a fixed amount of high-quality cognitive bandwidth per day. Every minute you spend replaying an insult, dissecting someone's tone, or building a case in your head for why they were wrong, that's bandwidth gone. Not borrowed, gone. You don't get it back. And the person who rattled you, they moved on. They've already forgotten about you. You're the only one still fighting the battle, and you're fighting it alone, inside your own skull, while your real life waits. You need to understand what you're actually dealing with when someone behaves like an idiot towards you. Most of the time, not always, but most of the time, their behavior has almost nothing to do with you. You are a screen onto which they're projecting their own chaos, their fear, their inadequacy, their pain. They don't have the self-awareness to address it internally, so it spills outward, and you happen to be standing in the way. So, why do you keep reacting? If you know it's not personal, if you know they're projecting, if you know you're handing them power you don't want to give, why does the reaction happen anyway? Almost automatically, like a reflex. Because you were never taught not to. No one sat you down at 12 years old and said, "Here is how emotional provocation works. Here is how to observe it without becoming it. Here is the pause that exists between stimulus and response." No one taught you that pause. So you grew into an adult who gets hit with a comment and fires back in real time, or shuts down, or goes home and vents to someone who cannot actually fix the problem. You react because reacting is the path of least internal resistance. Thomas Shelby, by contrast, and this is what makes him compelling to watch, operates from a completely different internal architecture. He has a pause, not a hesitation, a pause. There is a difference. Hesitation is fear. The pause is power. He takes the incoming fire, he registers it, he files it, and then he decides what, if anything, deserves a response. He has made the calculation ahead of time. He is never caught off guard, not because nothing surprises him, but because his response to surprise is already pre-decided. Composure first, always. That pause is learnable. It is a skill. It is not some mystical gift that certain people are born with. It is a trained habit, and you can train it. Here is why this matters more than you think. When you react instantly to provocation, you are not operating from your highest intelligence. You are operating from your amygdala, the threat response center of the brain. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that does actual sophisticated thinking, gets bypassed. You become, in that moment, a much simpler version of yourself. The person provoking you may not know the neuroscience, but they are functionally hacking your brain. They are pushing a button that takes you offline. And while you're offline, reactive, emotional, defensive, they are watching. And in some cases, that is exactly the outcome they were engineering. Stop being hackable. That is not a metaphor. That is a literal instruction. The next time someone pushes that button, your job is to notice the push, not to ignore it, not to pretend you don't feel it, but to name it internally. Someone is pushing a button. That naming alone, that moment of observation, creates the pause. It interrupts the automatic circuit. It gives your prefrontal cortex the half second it needs to come back online and make a real decision, not a reactive one. You have been handing control to people who have not earned it. That is a habit. Habits can be broken. There is something specific about the way Thomas Shelby carries himself that deserves its own examination, because it goes beyond just staying calm. Staying calm is table stakes. What Shelby represents, and what you should genuinely consider building into your own character, is something deeper. It is the absolute refusal to let other people's smallness define the ceiling of his behavior. Think about what that means in practice. Someone can be petty, and he does not become petty. Someone can be loud, and he does not become loud. Someone can be dishonest, and he does not abandon his own code. He has a code, a rigid, personal, non-negotiable code, and that code does not flex based on who is in the room or how they are behaving. His standards are his own. They are not a reaction to others. They're self-offered. That is the thing that most people miss. They think emotional self-control is about suppressing feelings. It is not. It is about having a self so well-defined, so clearly constructed, that external noise cannot dismantle it. You know who you are. You know what you stand for. And that knowledge acts as a kind of armor. Not the armor that shuts people out, but the armor that keeps you intact while the storm passes. Here is the practical version of this. You need a personal standard, not a vague aspiration. A specific, written down, tested standard for how you behave when under pressure. When someone disrespects you, what is your standard? When someone lies about you, what is your standard? When someone takes credit for your work, when someone dismisses you in public, when someone comes at you with the sole intention of destabilizing you, what is your standard? If you don't have an answer to those questions right now, you are improvising under fire, and improvisation under fire almost always produces a version of yourself you later regret. You go too hard, or you go too soft, or you say the thing you can't take back, or you say nothing and feel the shame of it for days. All of that happens in the absence of a clear personal standard. Define it now, not in the middle of conflict, now while it's quiet. How do you behave when someone tries to diminish you? The answer should not start with, "It depends on how bad they were." It should be unconditional, because conditions change, circumstances change, the idiots change. Your standard should not. Thomas Shelby does not revise his character based on who he's dealing with. He is the same man in every room. That consistency, that identity stability, is not arrogance. It is the deepest form of self-respect. It is the declaration that your character is yours, and it is not for sale, and it is not for borrowing, and it does not get renegotiated based on other people's behavior. You want that. Start building it deliberately. By order of the Peaky Blinders, a man who lets another man's chaos live rent-free in his head has already lost something more important than the argument. Let's talk about energy, not in any abstract spiritual sense, in the most practical, concrete, ruthless sense possible. Your energy is a resource. It is finite per day. Every single thing you give your attention to is drawing from that resource. And most people, genuinely most people, are hemorrhaging energy on absolute garbage without ever tracking the loss. You spend 40 minutes being angry at something someone said. That's 40 minutes of high-intensity cognitive and emotional spending. You spend 2 hours going over and over a conversation that already happened and cannot be changed. Gone. You spend the better part of a day in a low-grade agitation because someone's attitude rubbed you wrong at 9 a.m. Every decision you make for the rest of that day is being made on a depleted budget. You are operating at reduced capacity for your actual goals, your actual relationships, your actual ambitions, because of someone who probably didn't give you a second thought. This is not dramatic. This is budget management. If you tracked your mental and emotional spending the way a serious business tracks its financial spending, you would be horrified by what you're wasting and on whom. Thomas Shelby is, among other things, a ruthless accountant of his own resources. He does not have time to be destabilized by irrelevant people. Not because he's cold, he is deeply affected by things that matter, but he has made a firm distinction between what matters and what doesn't, and he does not mix up the two categories. The person who is trying to rattle him for sport, the petty bureaucrat, the jealous competitor, the noise of people who are simply not playing at his level, they do not get his energy. Full stop. You need to make that same distinction. You need to get very honest with yourself about what is actually worth your energy and what is not. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of the things that get your blood boiling are in the not worth it category. They feel urgent. They feel personal. They feel like they demand a response. But urgency is not the same as importance. And feeling personal is not the same as being personal. Most of it is just noise. And the cost of treating noise like signal is enormous. Start asking the question that Thomas Shelby would ask before engaging. What is this actually worth to me? Not what do I feel like doing? Not what would satisfy me in this moment? What is the actual value of engaging with this? And what is the actual cost? Run that calculation honestly, and you will find that the answer, the vast majority of the time, is that engagement costs more than it returns. Let it go. Not because you're weak, not because you don't have a response, because you have done the math, and the math says your energy is worth more than this. There is a category of person who is not just careless or thoughtless. They are deliberate. They are specifically, intentionally, surgically trying to get inside your head and break something. You know who I'm talking about. You have met this person. Maybe you work with them. Maybe you're related to them. Maybe they're an ex. They know exactly which buttons to push, because somewhere along the way they mapped you, and now they use that map against you. This is not paranoia. This is a real phenomenon, and it requires a different approach than just staying calm and doing the math, because this person is not going to be satisfied with silence. They are going to escalate. They're going to probe until they find the crack, and if you have cracks, and everyone does, they will find them and they will work them. The approach here is threefold. First, deprive them of feedback. Someone who is trying to destabilize you is running an experiment. They are testing inputs to see which ones produce the output they want, your visible distress. Every time you show them that an input worked through your tone, your face, your silence, your defensive explanation, you are giving them data. You are literally helping them calibrate. Stop helping them. Give them nothing to work with. Not contempt, not cold anger, not elaborate indifference. Nothing. The most devastatingly effective response to someone trying to break you is to become genuinely uninteresting to their agenda. Second, change what you want from the interaction. Most people walk into a conflict wanting to be understood, wanting to be vindicated, wanting the other person to realize they were wrong. You will not get that from someone who is deliberately trying to harm you. They know they're wrong. They don't care. The moment you walk in wanting their acknowledgement, you have already lost, because they will never give it to you, and your desire for it is the lever they will use. Change the goal. You are not there to be understood. You are there to handle what needs to be handled and leave with your integrity intact. That is the only goal that is actually achievable. Third, and this is the Thomas Shelby move, think 10 steps ahead, not in a manipulative way, in a clear-eyed, strategic way. If this person is in your environment long-term, if they are going to be a recurring figure in your life, you cannot white-knuckle it through every interaction on raw willpower. You need a plan. You need to understand what they want, what they fear, what would make them irrelevant, and you need to work toward that outcome methodically, not from a place of revenge, but from a place of genuine self-protection and forward motion. Shelby doesn't just survive his enemies, he renders them irrelevant. There is a difference. You can do the same, and you don't need to be ruthless to do it. You just need to be several moves ahead. There will be moments, and you need to prepare for this, where getting into it will feel not just justified but righteous. They would have done something so blatantly wrong, so clearly unfair, so obviously worthy of a response, that staying composed will feel like cowardice, like weakness, like letting them win. Every instinct in your body will be screaming at you to match their energy, to let them know you see exactly what they're doing, to make it clear that you are not someone to be played with. I need you to hear this next part carefully. They want that. That reaction, that moment where you lower yourself to their level is the entire point. The provocation is not the attack. The provocation is the setup for the attack. When you react, when you match energy, when you go low because they went low first, that is when you lose. Not because you responded, but because you responded on their terms, in their register, in their arena. And in their arena, they are the expert. You are a tourist. You cannot outperform someone at being petty. You cannot win an argument with someone who has no interest in truth. You cannot shame someone who has no shame. Trying to do any of these things doesn't prove your strength. It reveals your vulnerability. It tells them, and everyone watching, exactly where your limits are and exactly how to reach them. What does lowering yourself actually cost? In the short term, maybe some dignity, some composure, some goodwill from people who witnessed it. But the longer term cost is subtler and far more damaging. Every time you go low, you are practicing going low. You are training your nervous system to treat that behavior as acceptable. You are eroding the gap between who you are and who they are. And over time, not dramatically but slowly and quietly, you start to become harder to distinguish from the people you resent. Thomas Shelby is surrounded by people who would drag him down to their level. The landscape he operates in is brutal, genuinely brutal, and yet there is something he maintains. A quality of mind, a precision of thought, a sense of his own worth that the environment cannot strip from him. He may make compromises, he may make mistakes, but he never loses the thread back to who he has decided to be. He always finds his way back. That is your task, not to be perfect, not to never get rattled, to always find the thread back, to know even in your worst moments what you're returning to. Keep that standard visible, keep it real, and keep returning to it. Everything up to this point has been diagnostic. Now let's build something. The composure that Thomas Shelby carries, that quality of being utterly difficult to destabilize, is not an accident, and it is not a personality trait he was born with. The character's entire arc is built on a man forging himself in adversity, using pain as material instead of letting it use him. That is not a passive process, that is construction work. Active, deliberate, daily construction work on the self. Here is what that construction looks like in practice for you. Identity clarity. You need to know, not vaguely, specifically, who you are, what you value, how you behave when you're at your best, what you're building and why. When you have that clarity, you are much harder to destabilize because there is something solid to return to. Most people are vague about their own identity. They know their preferences. They know their moods. They know their resume, but they don't have a settled, examined, committed sense of self. That vagueness is vulnerability. The clearer you are about who you are, the less effective other people's attempts to tell you who you are will be. Emotional literacy. You need to know what you feel before it controls you, not after, before. That means building the habit of checking in with your internal state before you walk into high-stakes situations. It means being able to name what's happening in your body when provocation lands. Naming it, actually labeling the emotion, is not weakness. Neurologically, labeling an emotion reduces the intensity of the amygdala response. You are literally, biologically, calming the threat circuit by naming what's happening in it. Deliberate exposure. You get better at handling pressure by handling pressure, not by avoiding it. If you spend your life rooting around conflict, around difficult people, around uncomfortable confrontations, you do not get more peaceful, you get more fragile. Every avoided confrontation is a practice session you didn't take. Start taking them. Deliberately put yourself in situations where composure is required. Have the conversation you've been avoiding. Address the dynamic directly. Do it while it's still manageable so that when it becomes unavoidable, you've already practiced. Recovery protocols. You will still get rattled. Accept that now. What separates emotionally mature people from everyone else is not that they never lose it. It's how fast they get back. Do you have a recovery protocol? A specific, practiced set of actions that you take when you've been destabilized that bring you back to baseline? Most people don't. They just wait for it to pass, which means they're at the mercy of their own nervous system. Design the recovery, Know what it looks like. Practice it before you need it. This is the work. It is not glamorous work. Thomas Shelby doesn't make it look like work, but that's the point of the performance. The work was done already, before anyone was watching. Do yours now, before the moment arrives. Section 8. What you protect when you don't react. 450 words. Let's reframe what you're actually doing when you choose not to react to someone trying to ruin your day. Because it can feel like suppression. It can feel like you're swallowing something that deserves to be said. It can feel passive, even cowardly, especially when the thing inside you is righteous and real, and the other person genuinely deserves whatever they'd get. But here is what you are actually protecting when you don't react. You are protecting your reputation. In every environment, professional, social, familial, people are forming a picture of who you are based on how you behave under pressure. Anyone can be composed on a good day. Your character is revealed on a bad one. Every time you hold yourself together when it would have been easy to fall apart, you are depositing something into a long-term reputation account that no one else can touch. And every time you let someone drag you down to their level in public, you are making a withdrawal that is very hard to get back. You are protecting your relationships. The people you love, the people you want to work with, the people you want to attract into your life. They're watching how you handle difficulty. Not just the big dramatic difficulty, the daily, low-level, interpersonal friction that everybody faces. Do you become bitter? Do you become a version of the very people who frustrate you? Or do you move through it with something intact, some quality of dignity and self-possession that makes people think, I want to be around someone like that? You are protecting your future. Every hour you spend managed by someone else's behavior is an hour stolen from your own momentum. Your goals, your projects, your growth, none of that moves forward while you are in the psychological grip of someone who woke up today determined to be a problem. When you refuse to give them that grip, you get that hour back. You get that mental bandwidth back. You get to spend it on something that actually matters. And perhaps most importantly, you are protecting your standard. The you that exists at your best. The version of you that thinks clearly, acts deliberately, treats people well, builds things. That version is available to you every day, but only if you don't let the idiots consume it. Every time you protect that version of yourself from someone else's chaos, you are reinforcing its existence. You are practicing being that person. And eventually, if you do it consistently enough, that is not the version of yourself you have to work to access. It is just who you are. There is a version of you that does not give idiots the day. That version is not born, it is built, decision by decision, reaction withheld by reaction, withheld by reaction, withheld, standard held by standard held. Thomas Shelby is not the goal. He is a mirror, a hard, unflinching mirror, showing you what is possible when a person decides that their internal world is not up for negotiation. Your peace is not a luxury, it is a discipline. Your composure is not passivity. It is the most powerful statement you can make. Protect it like your life depends on it, because in every way that matters, it does.